Okay, guys, so I think we will just get straight to the Q&A and to the webinar with Ivana, and we probably have lots of information to cover today. So Ivana, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we are eager to listen to the wisdom of detox and regeneration.
Hi guys, it's good to be here with you again. Before we go into your questions, I wanted to clarify a few things about kidney filtration because I see people talking about and asking questions. What is to be expected in terms of sediment? What is normal? Because what happens sometimes, they start filtering and then they're maintaining their raw diet or their juicing, and the sediment decreases, or they don't see so much sediment. So let's look at this. You know, when we say, do you have filtration? People talk about really sediment, because you can't tell whether or not you have filtration unless you see sediment. So filtration is the function of the kidneys, and sediment that you see in your urine is the product of that filtration. So when you start opening up your kidneys with herbs and you're on a raw diet, maybe you're all fruit or even juicing, the first filtration that you start to get is actually going to be the sediment that your kidneys unload. Because you have to understand, your kidneys are the filter that filters the rest of the body. But just like your water filter, that pitcher that you have on the counter that purifies your water, the filter itself gets clogged, gets gunked up. So until the filter itself is cleaned and unclogged, it cannot filter or clean anything else. So that first sediment that people see is usually the lymph from the kidneys themselves. All right. So once you get that moving, and just because you're getting some sediment doesn't mean that you have now fully opened up your kidney filtration. Remember, you have two kidneys, one on each side, and each of your kidneys filters its respective side. Now, it's impossible for you to tell by looking at your sediment whether both of your kidneys are filtering or maybe just one of them. Or you may have maybe 30% filtration out of one kidney, right? And maybe none in the other. You may still be seeing sediment, but it's very difficult to assess the true condition of your kidneys and how well they're working. You start to see more of the indicators whether or not your kidneys are working based on other factors. Are you sweating too much? Are you having any kind of skin eruptions, outbreaks, pimples, boils, eczema? This tells you that you are moving lymph and your kidneys are not keeping up. So you may have opened up your kidney filtration to some extent. You may have cleaned up a part of that filter, but you have not really restored filtration to the full extent. So when you start moving lymph, then you are starting to see that the burden of that lymph is too great. The kidneys cannot keep up. So that's why you're going to see problems. And as Connie said, you know, she started to see, to feel pain in her jaw and in her teeth. And this is the result of that lymph being mobilized. And once you start to mobilize the lymph, because you're drinking juices that are astringent, you're bringing in living, vital, astringent chemistry into your body that is acting upon that stagnant lymph, you're starting to stir things up. I always bring this example of a frozen ice cube, you know, an ice cube that's made out of raw sewage, but it's frozen. And while it's frozen, the surrounding water in which the ice cube sits is only minimally affected. But when you break up that ice cube and you melt it, now all of that water is contaminated. So when you start to move lymph, you are, you know, in a sense, breaking up that proverbial ice cube. And now you're feeling all that sludge and nastiness of that old, you know, sewage that you've been storing in the interstitial spaces around your cells. So the idea is to open up your kidneys as much as possible, to open up filtration. So obviously one way to check whether or not you're filtering is to pee in a clear jar and check for sediment. You can also look at your blood work and check specifically the creatinine function. This refers to kidney function. Now in the US, the chart, the range is from 0 to 1. So if you fall anywhere from 0 to 0.5, your kidneys have filtration. Anything above 0.5 means that you have lost filtration, means your kidneys can no longer filter themselves. Okay, so that's another way for you to see whether or not your kidneys are filtering. Once again, not possible to tell either from blood work or from the sediment in your urine whether one of your kidneys are filtering or both of them are filtering. You can see more of the kidney function and the differences in between respective kidney function on either side, and whether or not they're weak or they're lymphatically suppressed through iridology. So that's one way to check. Now, when you sort of lose your filtration, you're still keeping your diet, you're on a juice fast. I know people who have been on extended juice fasts and they don't see so much sediment. Why is this the case? If you have had filtration before, if you have had sediment before, you've gotten a good amount of sediment and then you stopped, but your diet remained clean, that means that you're not moving lymph. Because when your diet is clean, you're eating raw, you're eating fruit or you're drinking juices, then you're not creating mucus, you're not creating so much acidic byproduct. So what you're going to see in your urine is going to be minimal sediment. You're going to see some cloudiness. And the reason you're not seeing more sediment is that you're not actually mobilizing and breaking up that old stagnant waste, because that is what you want to see. And to do that, there are various things you can do. One, herbs. I cannot begin to tell you the difference and how much sediment I was getting out on lymphatic herbs versus when I was just eating fruit. The difference is tremendous. There are herbs that pull lymph, right? So this would be very helpful. Moving your body helps to mobilize your lymph. Excuse me. Light exercise, yoga, rebounding, hot and cold showers. The change in temperature also mobilizes lymph. Dry brushing, massages, stimulating neurolymphatic points on your back, on each side of your spine. This will also get the lymph to move. Certain fruits are more astringent, like grapes and lemons. Ingesting them will also enable you to break up more of that lymph. And you will feel actually mobilization of lymph. I feel it sometimes in my body very shortly after I have eaten some fruit that's really strong and really pulling, like watermelon, or have grape juice. And all of a sudden you start to feel this pulling and twisting sensation in all of your muscles. You feel things are moving and it's very uncomfortable. It can actually be excruciating. And it lasts maybe like 10, 20 minutes and then it goes away. And after that, you do see more sediment. So if you have reached sort of a plateau where at first you have gotten a bunch of sediment in your urine, right? And then it stopped. You get a little bit of cloudiness. This is a sign that you're not pulling enough lymph. You're not breaking up that old stagnant waste. Another factor you have to consider is that if you go back to eating cooked food, you're going to lose filtration. If you go back to eating nuts and seeds that are very difficult, you may lose filtration. So you may have had, some unloading in the beginning, but if you are eating food that is acidic, you're not going to help filtering yourself. Also, people may see more sediment when they eat acidic food. This is a sign that your kidneys are indeed filtering, because the acidic food that you're eating, even if it's steamed vegetables sometimes, can have an acid hit because cooked food is by its nature acidic and dehydrating. You will see more sediment. The most sediment I saw was when I cheated and I had French fries. And I had an inch thick layer in the bottom of my jar. Now, does that mean that French fries are good for me? No, it just means that they have created so much of acidic byproduct. And thank God my kidneys were working to remove that I got rid of that. Because people think that eating avocados makes them filter. No, it doesn't. Avocado is mucus forming. It has an acidic hit. Anything that's really high in fat is going to give you more of an acidic waste byproduct, even if it's a plant-based raw food. Durian is another fruit that is more acidic. So there are certain raw fruits or vegetables that you want to either completely avoid while you're detoxing or have them very, very sparingly. Now, I wanted to share some photos here, and I wanted to show you two pictures. One of the pictures I have already shared before. This was filtration that I had right after breaking my 9-day fast. And that had a lot of sediment in it. And I want to contrast that to show you comparison, what kind of filtration I was getting out eating fruit, not even being on liquids, eating fruit, but taking herbs, taking lymphatic herbs. Another thing I want to reiterate is that if you do take lymphatic herbs, and I do not recommend that you start taking them until you do get kidney filtration. Because if your kidneys are not able to remove lymph, you're stirring up all of that old acidic lymph, you're breaking up and melting your ice cube and have no way of getting rid of that sewage. So do not start on lymphatic herbs until you have opened up your kidneys to begin with. Now, once you have done that and you start taking lymphatic herbs, you must take kidney herbs in conjunction with your lymphatic herbs to continue to support your kidney function. Because now as your body is mobilizing more lymph, your kidneys need more help, more nurturing to help them and be able to remove that. Okay? All right, so I'm gonna go into share screen here and see if I can pull these pictures up for you. Am I able to share, Arik?
I'm checking just a moment. So I suppose I have to give you permission to share. Now let's find it. Yeah. Now it's supposed to be working.
Okay.
Let's check it.
All right. So let's see. Oh, can I share multiple photos?
I think so, yeah.
Or does it?
No, it might be one after another.
Okay, all right. So let's do it that way.
It will share whatever you put on your screen. We will see it. All of us will see it.
All right, so I'm going to do one by one because it's for some reason it's not letting me choose more than one. Maybe I have too many things open on my computer right now. All right, so this is the picture. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, so this is the picture of filtration I was getting daily on lymphatic herbs and a diet of fruit. So you see the urine is dark and there is sediment on the bottom of the jar. So when you are really filtering in a sense of pulling old lymph and detoxing, because if you open up your kidneys and you are consuming food, you're going to be filtering every single day. You understand? But it's the amount of sediment and the kind of sediment you get out is that is going to show you whether you're detoxing or just removing the byproducts of what you ate today or the day before. Okay, so this is the picture of what is normal or what you should be getting out if you are actually detoxing. And this is no fasting, this is eating a fruit diet and taking lymphatic herbs and kidney herbs, okay? Oh, can you see this one?
We can still see the first one.
Okay, all right, so let me stop share. And can you see this picture change now?
It looks very similar to the first one, but maybe it's a different one.
Unfortunately, I can't see what I'm showing you guys here, so.
Let's see. Could you put the second picture, another picture?
That's what I'm trying to do. Hold on. It says, now it tells me screen sharing has stopped. Okay, let me try this again. I think I just closed up the pictures.
Okay.
I apologize. I'm getting a little bit of technical difficulties here.
That's fine.
I'm sorry, guys. So there was a picture that I had already shared that had a lot more sediment. And people were saying, well, you can't go by that because that was after the fast. And it's true. You are going to see a different level of filtration if you are dry fasting. Did I lose you?
No, we can hear you well, but we didn't see the second picture.
Okay, I don't know what I did here, but I made a mess of my screen. I'm trying to open go back to open up my old files, so I'm sorry.
Okay.
That this did not work out the way, oh, maybe, well, hold on. What about now? Nothing?
No, it looks to me like the first one. What do you think, guys? Or maybe
it's the first picture.
It's
still the first picture. Okay, so I don't know how. Oh, because I keep getting the message the screen sharing has stopped as the shared window is closed. So I don't know what that means. So it's not allowing me to share the second picture. But you know, I showed it in another webinar, and I had posted it in the fasting group. So when after I broke the fast, my first urine, I had almost 3 times the sediment of what you had seen in the first picture that I showed you. Okay, so you will see a difference in dry fasting and how much sediment you get out, but you're still going to get sediment if you're moving your lymph. So the idea is that detoxing, the whole point of detoxing is getting rid of that old stagnant lymph. And one way to do it is to use herbs. Also move your body, hot, cold showers. You can do cold sheet treatment. You can do the castor oil packs on your kidneys to help the filtration. Do you have any questions about that?
Yeah, Ivana, I heard from someone talking about kidney filtration is that it's not because there's this idea floating around outside that when you get up in the morning, the first urine shows your filtration or not. And she told me, well, that's, and you even said like the first is not necessarily the one that you should check. So it's more the second or third one. Is that correct?
It can be. It depends. Look, I am somebody who gets up to urinate several times per night. So what difference does it make to me? So, you know, when I wake up, it's not gonna be my first urine, because I've been getting up to pee throughout the night, maybe 4, 5, 6 times. And this is because, you know, when I retain water in my legs, I can't get rid of it because I have still, my legs are really acidic. I can't get rid of it until I am supine and the water balance is shifted where my legs are level with my kidneys, allowing them to now remove that water. So it's not so, you know, simple, so cut and dry. So for me, getting up and going to the bathroom, is it really my first urine? No. But usually what does show you the filtration is after you have had something to drink, after you've gotten up and after you have fasted, be it a juice or a water, because that causes the fluid to go through the kidneys, and whatever was collected there is now going to come out. You see?
Yeah, makes sense.
So for some people who have good kidney function, filtration, it will be their first urine, because while we're asleep, we are in a state of autophagy to some extent, where the body is cleaning itself. So that when you get up and you have your urination, you see that sediment. Now, some people don't see sediment in the morning because they don't enter autophagy during their sleep cycle, because they eat too much too close to their bedtime. Okay, so you're going to wake up and you're not going to see sediment because of that. Because you did not give your body the ability to clean, because it was dealing with digestion and getting stuff through your digestive system.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, so it's not so cut and dry, it's this or that. It depends on a variety of factors.
Yeah, one last question about kidney filtration that I have is talking about herbs. What are your thoughts around kidney herbs? Do you prefer, and I'm not talking about glandulars, but I'm talking about dry herbs, sorry, or tinctures? I'm taking right now everything, just to make sure. But is that, do you have a preference when it comes to dried herbs or tinctures?
Dry herb or fresh herb, even better, is always the best. It's the strongest. However, if you have issues with digestion, if you have issues with absorption and utilization, it's going to be difficult for you to get that goodness out of the herb. You see? Because when you are ingesting a dry herb, you have to first break it down, digest it. Then you have to be able to absorb it through the intestinal wall. And if you are backed up and malabsorbed there, that's not going to happen to any great extent. And after that, chemistry has to be utilized with the help of adrenals or thyroid, parathyroid, or some other catalyst. Okay? So if you have semi-decent absorption, and that means digestion, absorption, and utilization, the strongest, best way to go is going to be either dry herb or fresh herb. If you have an issue with digestion and absorption and utilization, then the easiest way to get things into your system will be through tinctures or teas. Of course, you're going to lose some of the power when you distill a tincture, and you're going to lose that power even further when you make a tea. But an alcohol-based tincture is fairly strong. Glycerin, not so much. And taking a tincture gets it into your system very quickly, specifically the alcohol tincture. Glycerin tincture has to be digested, takes some time. Okay? So it all depends on your situation.
Yeah, I think a good question for the group is also talking about kidney tinctures, Ivana. The Dr. Moss is offering 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I was told you should either take 1 and 3 or 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. But I've never heard a really a good answer why that's the case. So
all right, so the 4 kidney formulas made by Dr. Moore called cellular botanicals. The odd numbers, 1 and 3, the herbs that are in those tinctures are to open up filtration and kidney function. The herbs in the even number tinctures, 2 and 4, are more diuretic, right? So if you're retaining water, you want to be on those. And numbers 1 and 2 are weaker than 3 and 4. So the higher the number, the more potent the formula.
So in the ideal world, like if you want to push it, then you take 3 and 4?
So you need at least 1 diuretic and 1 for kidney function. That's why the recommendation is to work with at least 2 tinctures. Dr. Morrison actually recommends 3 tinctures. Have the number 1 and 3, which are for filtration, and 1 for diuretic, to keep moving fluid out of your body.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Personally, I really like kidney number 3 because I've tried all of them. And as you said, Connie, some formulas are going to work better for you. You'll just have better synergy with them. So you're going to have to try and see which one you're most compatible with. Yeah,
I've heard. I work with an acupuncturist, and he sometimes does, did in the past, muscle testing. So I don't know if you guys know about muscle testing.
Absolutely, you just took the words out of my mouth. Sometime, and you will see that this will change, because you may muscle test the same herb, the same product today, and then muscle test it 2 months down the line, and your body's going to have different reaction to it. Because it may be appropriate at one moment, but not appropriate another, because your body constantly fluctuates. It's not a static thing. It changes, it shifts, and its condition changes. So that one formula may be okay for now, but you may not need it down the road, or it may not be appropriate right now. It may be too strong, but 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, now you can take it. Now it's good for you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I always recommend muscle testing. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Ivana.
Is it possible to show us how to do a muscle test?
So you may need help with this, because the idea is that you don't want to know what you're muscle testing, because then you're projecting your thoughts, beliefs, and feelings onto it. So you can, first of all, you need another person, because you need somebody to push your arm down. So you would hold a supplement, and best way to do it is when you don't know what you're holding. Like you have a few different things that you're testing, okay? And you can either put them in, take the actual capsules and put them in envelopes, and you write on inside of the envelope which each one is, so that you don't know what you're picking up. And once you've tested and you've gauged your response, you simply make a list. You say you will number your envelopes 1 through 4, 1 through 5, and you write number 1, I had strong response. Number 2, I had weak response. And after you're done, then you can open up and see which things you tested. So you would have somebody else do it for you, because obviously if you're packaging your own envelopes, you know what you're putting where, right? So you need somebody else to do this for you, so that you don't know what you're testing. So the idea is that you're picking up that product, that supplement. And you can do this with foods as well, by the way, when you know if you have a sensitivity to food. And you're holding it, and then you putting your arm out, and you want to have resistance in this arm and then have somebody push it down. If you have the strength and power to resist it, then it means that that supplement that you're testing is good for you. Now, if the person is pushing down your arm and you can't resist, the arm feels weak, that tells you that the thing you're holding is actually weakening your system. Do you see?
Mm-hmm. And does it matter what arm you're using? It doesn't matter, right or left?
I don't think it matters, but I would say use your non-dominant arm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that clarify things for you?
Yeah.
And you can find videos on YouTube how to do this. But the idea is that you don't want to know what you're holding, because a lot of the times our beliefs about that thing or that product can actually taint the result. So this is where the body consciousness decides whether something is energetically compatible with it.
So is there anything you need to say when you're pushing on the arm? You just
Nope.
You don't need to say that, holding firm means it's good, letting go means it's not good. You don't need
No,
to.
once you understand the concept, you understand the concept.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a magical ritual. This works. You don't need to have an incantation or a prayer or a conversation with yourself. It works. This is kinesthetics.
Okay.
Oh, well, since nobody's coming up with the questions, let me read the question that I got. Sorry, my throat is really dry. I might have to get up and get some water at some point. Let me see. Okay. So this is regarding psychological and emotional detox. And I'm going to read the question. In a nutshell, my mother was dysfunctional and I suffered from emotional deprivations and developmental problems. Especially socially, I was a victim of bullying throughout my childhood. Later, I married a possessive, abusive husband, but I am divorced now, and I had already worked it out since it had happened when I was an adult. And I was stronger and more aware. But I still haven't managed to resolve the issues from my childhood because it all happened at a very young age when you're very helpless and vulnerable and exposed, and it is still very painful. And I'm still very angry, especially at my parents for not being there for me. But I want to get it out of the system once and for all. Of course, I went to different psychologists, but I feel that talking about the problems is not enough. I am looking for something else at a deeper level emotionally, since the trauma occurred at an age where not only I did not have the tools to deal with it, but I also did not even have the words for it. I didn't realize what was happening to me and what I was experiencing at the time. So, okay. Emotions are energy in motion, and that is energy that is being held in the body. When we suppress emotions, instead of processing them, they're actually lodged into our cells, into our muscles. I did this body-centered work where this wasn't talk therapy, and it involved a contraption that I probably can't even adequately explain to you. But this was a sort of a bench, or you can't even call it a bench, where you're on your knees And there's this platform where you lay your head down and you're holding on to the handles on it. Your torso is not supported at all. And as you are basically on your hands and knees, the therapist then is pressing on your back, swaying it and moving it. And doing that would cause me to have severe coughing fits, choking sensations. So what was happening was that emotions were actually being released from the body just by manipulating the body itself. Without talking, without delving into what happened, how it happened. Some people have such strong reactions, they actually vomit as a result of this treatment. And what would happen afterwards, after, a lot of this would get released, and the whole treatment, there would be just a lot of coughing and choking. This was hard work. But in addition to that, it wasn't the end of it. Then what would happen, all of the actual feelings would come up. And that was probably the most difficult part of this work, because I would be flooded with emotions, sadness, anger, fear. I would be crying. It was a really, really challenging roller coaster of emotions. So I could see how doing physical touch work can actually bring up emotions, because these emotions are stored in our body. So when we detox, we start to move things around certain tissues that hold those emotions. So you're not just releasing the emotions, the chemicals themselves, the toxins, but you're also releasing emotions that were lodged in those specific areas. I have heard people tell me, I went to get a colonic, and after the colonic, it's like I lost my mind. I got very emotional, and I couldn't stop eating. All my cravings got triggered, and so on. You will see this happening because food suppresses. What do people do? And especially with children. The child is upset. Oh, give him a cookie. Oh, you know what? You did so well. Let's go get you ice cream. This creates conditioning around certain emotional events, so that when we are faced with a similar event, it's like a program that gets turned on. So instead, when child is having a crisis, a parent talks to the child, is there emotionally for the child, trying to resolve this issue with them, help them feel through it. They go, oh, here, go play with this, play with an iPad, or go, we'll buy you a toy, or have a snack, have a cookie. So this becomes the coping mechanism. So when you are an adult and you are hit with a crisis of some sort, you have no tools to manage these things. So then you go back to the easiest thing that has already been sort of programmed into your brain and into your body. That when I feel this way, I am going to go and I'm going to eat. I had this revelation where I struggled with cravings, and there were moments of clarity where you go, you have a craving, you're hungry, you want to eat, right? And you want something bad. And then you go in your mind to your all-time favorites and you go, do I want this? Do I want that? And when nothing is actually feeling satisfying, I had this aha moment, wait a minute, I'm not actually hungry for anything, because none of these things are appealing to me in any way, yet I still feel the hunger. So where's the hunger coming from? What is the hunger? And the hunger is usually for connection. The hunger is usually for validation. The hunger is for love that we did not get. So if you were a child who was having some sort of a crisis and the parent was there for you in a loving, validating way, you would have moved through that crisis, right? So you're going to go into detox. You're going to be faced with those old feelings, And also new events are going to trigger those old feelings. So when that happens, for you to be successful, you have to have somebody there for you, whether it's your partner, like, you know, your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, it's a family member, it's a good friend, it's a therapist, or it's a life coach. Because when that happens, what you need to do is to have somebody who can be there for you in an emotional crisis, where you tell them, this is what's happening, this is what I'm feeling, and I want to eat, I want to have this thing. And the person then has the ability, the intelligence, and emotional intelligence to be there for you. Say, well, let's talk about this. Where do you feel things in your body? What does that feel like? You know, when I try to move beyond the craving, and I go, all right, so I have there's a feeling in my body. So I close my eyes and I then go and try to identify its location within my physical structure. Is it in my throat? Do I feel it in my solar plexus? Usually for me, it's the solar plexus. And as you start to focus on what the feeling is, you're going into the feeling. You want to feel it and sense it as completely as possible, not through your mental faculties, not evaluating it, but what does the sensation feel like in my body? Is it a sharp pain? Is it a pulling sensation? For me, it's usually queasiness, feeling this discomfort. And once you go into the feeling, guess what? The feeling of hunger goes away, because the feeling of hunger is just a mask superimposed on this feeling. But when you remove the mask and you go into the feeling itself, you're no longer feeling that surface cover, so to speak. You understand? You're feeling the actual feeling. So by doing that, the actual hunger that you were feeling before, the craving goes away, and now you're just left with that raw feeling. And the point is to stay with it and feel it for as long as it is there. And by doing so, it allows that energy to move through and out of your body. And having somebody who can be a mirror or a sounding board for you, who can tell you, you are okay, you are loved. I am here to be that connection for you. I am here to be that emotional support for you while you're going through this. So let's talk through this. And by the time you're done, you will find that you no longer have the hunger or the craving. You know, another way I knew that these cravings or this hunger was phantom or fictional, not real, is that, you know, if you don't indulge the craving when it happens, you wait a little longer, another craving replaces it. So what you thought was so imperative that you had at that moment, that you so needed, you know, an hour later is replaced by something else, and now you really want that. So once you look back and you go, wait, then it's not the thing that I want. It's not about the specific food. It's about something being triggered that makes me look for a replacement feeling to cover that feeling up. You understand? You're looking for another sensation to replace that. And that's why focusing on the feeling itself in the body, within your physical system, actually strips the craving, strips that hunger for food, and you're left with the actual underlying cause of what is driving your need to cope through food. Another important thing is hypothalamus. And I see this especially with people when I do their iridology readings. Hypothalamus is the part of your brain that controls hunger and appetite. When hypothalamus is overactive, when it's in an acute stage of lymphatic stagnation, you're going to have insatiable appetite. When hypothalamus is chronic or hypoactive, people have no appetite. So the paradox is that you go into detox, and as you start to clean your body, your cravings or your appetite increases, which is the opposite of what you want. But why is this happening? Because detox, in an essence, is a process of removal waste, but it's also a process of retracing, walking things back. So we have 4 stages of lymphatic stagnation. First one is acute. This is when the problem was first created and you have those symptoms. This could be a cold and flu-like symptom. This could be some kind of inflammatory response. This is when the body is fighting, right? This is when the symptoms are ever present. This is when you may have your urinary tract infection or any other infection. This is an acute stage. But if you're not eliminating the toxins and you're suppressing these symptoms through medications, you're pushing that problem further down. You're pushing it deeper into your body. So instead of letting your body run the course of cleaning itself out by having a cold or a flu or having a urinary tract infection, people take antibiotics, people take fever reducers, people take all kinds of things to suppress the symptoms. All of these things are actually keeping the problem there, because the acute systems are a way for your body to clean the garbage out, remove it. So when you suppress symptoms for a period of time, then you start to transition into the subacute stage of lymphatic stagnation. This is where things are starting to slow down. Function is starting to slow down. And this is where things in the eye turn yellow or gray or more of a greenish color. Green is more transitional now toward brown. Then we have the third stage, which is chronic. After a period of time, bombarding our body with bad poisonous chemistry, eating unhealthy foods, taking in chemicals internally in forms of medications, and also putting things on our skin, inhaling chemistry, being exposed to environmental toxins. Over time, when these assaults continue to be mounted and we're not giving our body the ability to detox itself because we're suppressing symptoms the minute the body starts to try to move them out, you eventually reach chronic stage. And the chronic stage is always hypoactivity, where your thyroid, your parathyroid stops working. It no longer functions, your adrenals. The same with hypothalamus, right? So when you are in an acute stage of lymphatic stagnation, everything is in the hyper state. So this is when if your hypothalamus is in this lymphatic state of stagnation, it's going to be overactive. And overactive hypothalamus means stronger hunger and appetite, sometimes uncontrollable appetite. If your hypothalamus is in its chronic state, that you actually will have a reduced hunger, and it can even lead to starvation because people just don't want to eat. But when you start to detox, what you start to do is you start going through those lymphatic stages backwards. So now you're going from chronic into subacute, and then from subacute into the acute stage. And as you move through these stages, you experience different symptoms. So by the time you get to the first stage, to the acute, all of a sudden you start to have these symptoms of active irritation, overstimulation, which will include actually increased hunger. So if you don't know this, you just go, I don't know what happened to me. It's like I lost my mind. I cannot control my cravings, my hunger, because what you are not realizing that you are now have reached that particular stage. So you have to keep detoxing. You have to be strong through this. Now, for hypothalamus specifically, and this is where I would recommend a glandular, get a bovine hypothalamus glandular from New Zealand cattle only. Do not go to your butcher and get cow brain. This is not how it works. It's not the same. You cannot make your own glandulars, people, because I heard somebody was making their own glandulars in dehydrator. Please do not do this. You're going to kill yourself. You're going to give yourself a serious infection, because if you are putting raw meat into a dehydrator, what you are consuming is undercooked meat. So best case scenario is you're going to have worms. Worst case scenario, you're going to have deadly food poisoning. Okay, so please don't do that, because the way glandulars are prepared, they're freeze dried at extreme temperatures. All right, so it is not the same. You cannot make your own glandulars. You cannot freeze things in your freezer. It's not the same. The temperature has to be at least minus 50 Celsius or minus 58 Fahrenheit. Okay, so it's not the same. But taking a hypothalamus glandular would help you with this. But it's important to know what state of lymphatic stagnation your hypothalamus is in. And you do this by looking at your eyes. Now, I wanted to pull up a picture. Let's see if this works. So I'm a little nervous about it now. Can you see it?
Yes, yes, we can see it, Ivanna.
Okay, so we have the iridology chart, and your hypothalamus, you see your head is here on top in light yellow. This is your left eye, this is your right eye, this is your brain areas. Now, your hypothalamus shows up in the inherent mental sector, what's marked as inherent mental. So if you have blue eyes and you have a lot of white fibers in this area, that tells you that your hypothalamus is in an acute stage of acidosis. This is where you're going to feel more hunger and not be able to control it. You also want to see if you have any nerve rings cross-secting the brain area, because that will also irritate those particular brain segments. So if you have your inherent mental, your hypothalamus can be, okay, but if you have a nerve ring running through it, especially if it's white, it's going to really irritate that particular part of the brain. You would also look in this area for any lesions, any radius solaris or lacuna, any opening of the fibers, weakening of the fibers. This will tell you that you have actual inherent weakness in this area. Or it could just be lymphatic. It could be suppressed by lymph. So it all depends. And taking a hypothalamus glandular would really help. Now, it's not just our appetite that's here. If you have markings in this area, you will also have a compulsive personality. People who suffer from OCD have these markings. People who are obsessive have weaknesses in their hypothalamus. So this is a very important area. And as you detox, you may start to feel these cravings and this hunger as a healing crisis or a detox symptom. That means that you have now reverted your acidosis to the acute stage. And that's the last stage before you get all of that out and you can heal. So the idea is to continue to work on detoxing. And to detox the brain, you have to have cleaned out transverse colon. Your GI tract needs to be clean. And the use of glandulars is controversial, and I don't recommend them willy-nilly. People should not look at glandulars as a way to treat something. Why glandulars work, and this is something that you have to make a decision for yourself because it's an animal product. So there is ethical considerations here, obviously. And glandulars work because they have very specific enzymes that work for very specific tissues. There are something like 76,000 different enzymes that are involved in all kinds of functions within our body. Medical science doesn't even know most of them or what they do. So by taking, let's say, an eye glandular that has eye tissue in it, it will only impact the eye. The enzymes and the chemicals in that glandular will only impact that specific tissue. So it's not like eating meat. You understand? It is literally just taking those building blocks, especially if you have damage of that tissue or you have genetic weaknesses in that area. Taking healthy animal tissue provides those missing building blocks that are helping to restore the actual function. And you only take a glandular for a very short period of time. If you need to take a glandular or you're taking it for a few months, you're missing the point. You're going about it wrong. The idea is you take it for one bottle and then you are just taking herbs and you're detoxing to heal the gland. Glandulars on their own do not heal the gland or the tissue if you're continuing to eat poorly. If you're eating cooked food or, God forbid, you're eating animal products. That doesn't help you any. It does not change the condition of that gland or tissue. You are artificially supporting it for the time being, but you stop taking the glandular and you're back at square one, or even worse, because if you do not change the diet, if you do not clean your body, things do not stay the same. They either get better or they get worse. And unless you're doing something to make them better, they will continue to get worse. So your problem will continue to progress if you're not actually digging deep into the body to clean it out and restore its natural function by removing obstructions, by cleaning out that which is suppressing the function of the gland, and you're only artificially stimulating with the glandular, you are never going to get better. So please do not think that glandulars are going to be the answer for you. They can be very useful short term, especially if you have a serious problem. And, you know, certain things like hypothalamus, I would recommend that you take it, because if you cannot control your appetite, if you cannot control the food that you're putting into your body, then you cannot even get to detox. You understand? You basically stand no chance. So if you can give yourself a leg up to help yourself get there, and you would only do this to enable yourself to eat properly, to be on all fruit diet and not have and go binge and constantly think about food and obsess about it. Okay, does that answer your question?
Can I ask something?
Sure.
This treatment you talked about,
Yes.
how could you give it? Does it have to be? Do you have to come to you, or could you do it over Zoom meeting?
First of all, this is a physical treatment. This is hands-on treatment. This cannot be done virtually. You understand? Like, a person has to touch your body. So that's one. Two, I don't do it. Three, I don't know anybody else who does it. There was literally one person that I knew that knew how to, and you have to make this contraption, and he had to have it commissioned to be made. He learned it from a different chiropractor in California and then brought it to New York. There's nobody else that I know that this is not a mainstream treatment. This is something that some chiropractor came up with, and then he taught a few different friends of his who were also chiropractors, and then they made this bench, for the lack of a better word, and I lost touch with this person. I couldn't even get, treatment now if I wanted to. So, but there are other ways you can stimulate it. You understand, doing massaging, certain types of touches will do that.
Physical touch.
Yes. And it's comforting, right? When we want, we want to feel comfort, it comforts us to be hugged, to be held, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Ivanna, can I ask?
Yes.
What about glandulars during pregnancy?
I would not recommend glandulars during pregnancy.
Not even organs?
Organs are different than, glandulars, like thyroid, pituitary, thymus, because you don't know if that baby has weaknesses or not, but taking a glandular, you can overstimulate, you know, let's say pituitary gland, and that's going to affect actual development of the fetus, because pituitary is involved in growth, right? Or taking thymus. So all of these things can actually impact the development of the fetus. So I would not recommend taking glandulars. Now, if you wanted to take like a kidney glandular or, you know, a pancreas glandular during pregnancy, I would say it's okay as long as these are proper glandulars, not the ones you made in your dehydrator, Ellie.
Yes, I am
You
going to
understand?
try.
There is a reason pregnant women are not allowed to eat certain things like goat cheese or sushi, nothing that's undercooked. You understand?
Yes.
You cannot do this. That could be life-threatening. Also, think about what a dehydrator does. It is basically heating up flesh. You know what roadkill is? When an animal gets hit by a car and then the carcass just sits on the side of the road. And imagine what happens to it on a nice warm day when you let it sit there on the side of the road for a day or two. What happens? Maggots, flies, parasites, right?
Yes.
So by doing this, what you're doing, you're creating a parasitic infection inside you. But even if you use proper glandulars that are freeze-dried, not heated, freeze-dried, those glandulars will still to some extent provide food for your existing parasites because it is animal flesh. It will feed your worms that rely on animal flesh. So that's another thing you have to consider when you are taking glandulars.
Yes.
So I would say for organs, if you want to take like a kidney glandular, okay, spleen glandular, okay, but not pituitary, hypothalamus, parathyroid, thyroid, even adrenal. I would not recommend.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Ivanna, I have one question that came to my mind, and I have to confess, I have to make a confession. So 2-3 weeks ago, you know, emotions came up, whatever. So I had I'm on a juice feast, and I actually drank cacao.
Okay.
Cacao. I didn't cacao with a little bit of maple syrup. And it was really a binge. But just with hot water, so no milk, so just the cacao. And it actually, like, after, I had a high of 10 minutes or something, and after that I crashed so hard that I almost lost consciousness. So it was really, I couldn't even get out of the bed anymore, and it was really, really bad. So, and it lasted, like, I don't know, a couple of hours. So I, as if I would have been on heroin or something really crazy. So just so that was a great teaching. But just from a physiological perspective, what really happens when you are on a detox and then you use and take and digest stimulate? No, not stimulations, but stimulants.
Stimulant, yeah.
Yeah, stimulants.
Well,
what actually really happens?
Well, it hits your adrenals. So this is important because I don't know if a lot of people know this, if this is common knowledge, but your adrenal glands consists of the outer cortex and the inner medulla, and they perform different functions. The medulla produces your epinephrine and norepinephrine. These are your adrenalins. This is your fight and flight neurotransmitter. This is the neurotransmitter that gives you physical strength. It's like people who are in that state, who produce a lot of norepinephrine, can lift a car, very heavy objects. They feel no pain in that moment. You understand? But then your cortex has many different functions. It produces your corticosteroids, that's your cortisol, that's your anti-inflammatories. It produces glucocorticoids, that is neurotransmitters and hormones that regulate sugar metabolism. And it produces mineral corticoids, specifically aldosterone, which regulates your sodium potassium balance and your water retention. And this is why people who have weak adrenal cortex specifically will have salt cravings. Because when your sodium levels are inadequate because you're not producing enough aldosterone, or your potassium is too high, then you will receive a signal of a salt craving to bring your sodium levels up, because your kidneys are not able to regulate it on their own. And your adrenal cortex also is responsible for synthesis of androgens. That's your testosterone and estrogen. So people who have sort of an overstimulation here will see, like women will see hair growth on their face and stuff like that when that is out of balance. So when people have weak adrenals, and then you go and you take something that's a stimulant like that, and you cannot produce adequate, glucocorticoids to regulate that sugar, it's gonna, affect your blood sugar levels. It can either drop it or raise it too high, and you can't regulate. You see?
Yeah. So I didn't know that it has something to do with the blood sugar.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, because your body can't regulate it, because your cortex is not producing adequate amounts of it. But the reason this happens, people go, well, but I didn't have that problem until I started to detox. Yes, and here's why. When you are making things really nice and easy for your body by being on all juices, by not putting in difficult toxic chemistry in it, it works very smoothly. Imagine yourself if you're running at a certain speed and you have your rhythm and you can run really fast and nothing is bothering you. But as you're running, somebody throws a 50-pound bag on your shoulders and you have to keep running at the same speed. Well, what's going to happen now? You can't keep running at the same speed because somebody just threw a 50-pound bag on your shoulder. And now your adrenal gland, this is how your adrenal gland feels like. When after it's had its nice rhythm, where it's not being irritated, overstimulated, right? And now you go, boom, punch. You throw this weight on it, and it's almost like it knocks it on its ass, and it's go, wait a minute, I need to adjust here. And it can't adjust quickly enough because it hasn't been healed. You understand? It's still too weak.
Mm-hmm. So are you saying if, like in that event, if my adrenals would be totally healed, which are not obviously, and which we know from my eyes, that they could handle something like, not that I want to drink cacao, but
yes,
would they able to handle? So this, what I experience is a symptom that I still have very weak adrenals, or one
you still
adrenal.
have adrenal weakness, yes.
Okay.
Specifically
Okay,
in the cortex.
Got it. Okay, good. That makes sense.
And the reason I make this distinction is that if you do choose to go on adrenal glandulars, you don't need to take the whole adrenal gland. You can just take the adrenal cortex. You understand? Mm-hmm. Because taking the whole gland, if you don't have a problem with the medulla, can overstimulate things. Mm-hmm. So you can be more targeted and precise in helping your adrenals while taking an adrenal glandular in this way. Okay. Also, do not take adrenal glandulars if you're suffering from severe adrenal exhaustion. This is where glandulars will actually make things worse. Adrenal glandulars only work well in mild to moderate cases of adrenal insufficiency. When you have really advanced adrenal fatigue, taking adrenal glandulars will overstimulate your gland, and you will feel that wired but tired feeling. You're not going to be able to sleep and stuff like that. So people need to be careful when taking glandulars. I want to reiterate this. Glandulars are not a joke. they pack a serious punch. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can actually get the opposite result of what you're looking for. And that's why we use iridology to determine whether or not somebody should be on a glandular. And we look at person's symptomology. This is why we do an assessment where we ask you questions, what type of symptoms you have, so that we can determine, are your glands overactive or underactive? And based on that, we decide whether or not the person should take glandulars.
And you keep reassessing the person while
Correct,
you
because things change. Yes, just because something was this way 3 months ago or 6 months ago, it's going to be different now. If you have been on a healing journey, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Ivanna, could you talk
Yeah.
about, explain about these cravings for salty and spicy foods? What creates it, and how you're supposed to deal with it?
Well, spicy foods, in my experience, come from being cold internally. When you have low thyroid function, when you can't regulate body temperature, okay? This is when people tend to go for the spicy stuff. Another case where people tend to crave spicy stuff, if their mucosa has been so desensitized that they need to stimulate it to get some kind of sensation or taste feeling in their mouth, or for psychological reasons. You understand? Because over time, mucosa gets so hardened and desensitized that you need to increase the heat to produce a response, in a sense. And this was the case with me. I loved spicy food and I wanted it to be as spicy as possible. Now I cannot tolerate it because I've cleaned things up a little bit and my mucosa has become resensitized. Now for me to have anything spicy that's spicier than ginger, and I can't do it. I start choking, I start crying, it's coughing, mucus is coming out of everywhere. And people think that this is breaking up their mucus. To some extent, yes, but what it also does, it's creating more mucus. And that's why I don't recommend eating super spicy foods to stimulate the mucosa. You don't want to stimulate your mucosa. You want to hydrate it. You want to be gentle with it, because then it stops responding. Because you see, your mucosa is your defense mechanism. When something comes in that's an irritant, something your body doesn't like, mucosa produces mucus to insulate the body from that irritant. But if you overwhelm your body, your mucosa, with spicy foods, it stops being responsive. You understand? Or you create too much mucus that now is strangling your cells, that's now not allowing them to breathe. So as far as spiciness, keep it mild. I think ginger is a good level of spice, you know. Don't go too hot into those hot peppers like habaneros and so on, because that will actually create problems that you're trying to solve.
What
Now,
about
salt, right? So as I just said, your adrenal glands, specifically the adrenal cortex, produces aldosterone, which is a hormone that regulates the sodium-potassium balance in your body. And aldosterone, by regulating the sodium amount, regulates whether or not fluid stays in your body. So sodium goes up, you get water retention, or sodium goes down, you release the water from your body. When the adrenals are weak or their function is impaired, they're not able to maintain proper levels of sodium and potassium, or when your sodium is too low, you're going to start to get a craving for salt, because your body innately wants to increase its sodium levels. You understand? But what salt inevitably does, it stimulates the adrenals. Do you see? And that's why you want to avoid salt, because you don't want to stimulate the adrenals, because that's what causes them to run out of gas. And that's what causes them to go hypoactive. So salt is not advisable. And salt is extremely addictive. Listen, I am a bona fide salt addict. This is my personal problem. Horrible, horrible. Cannot let go of it. Still can't let go of it. Once in a while, I have to have my salt, and I feel like I'm in heaven when I do it. You understand? Salt is one of the biggest problems in creating toxemia in the body. If you think about it, think about the foods that you really, really love, and then prepare them without salt. Are you still gonna love those foods? So there's your answer. You see, it creates an addiction within the body. That's what creates the craving and addiction to that specific food. Most people who find it hard to be on an all fruit diet, and they say, well, I just can't do so much sweet. It's because of the improper sodium potassium balance, because of their weak adrenals. That's what makes them want savory. It makes them want salty. And they say the fruit is the problem. No, it's just that your adrenals are so weak. You have salt craves because the adrenals cannot maintain the proper sodium balance in the body.
So what helps it? Fasting? What's going to solve the problem?
Well, first and foremost, cleaning the body. The only thing that can really help restore function of your glands is cleaning them, detoxification. And this is achieved through raw foods, through juices, fruit, right? And herbs to support their function.
Okay. So, and then once and for all, you're going to get rid of these cravings, or no?
Oh man, sometimes it's a struggle. Listen, and this is something I want you guys, nobody's perfect. Just because I've learned these things doesn't mean that I don't have these. We all have problems. We all struggle. Okay. And one way to deal with salt cravings in a constructive way is to get them from plants. What really does it for me is juicing celery together with tomatoes.
Tomatoes and lemon.
And lemon. It's hard for me to do lemon because of my teeth, but if you can do lemon or lime, perfect. That is going to help you. There's a difference between salt that you get from rock or ocean and salt that you get once that inorganic salt has been processed by the plant. You understand? Now it's living salt. You don't want dead, inert chemistry of rock salt or the sea salt. Your body doesn't know what to do with it. It's too dense. It's difficult to process for the body, and it's overstimulating. But the plants, when they get that salt from the ground, they process it through their own bodily functions. They synthesize it, and it becomes part of their matrix. And then you consume it as a different kind of salt. And specifically, celery has the correct sodium clusters to help your adrenal glands. So drinking celery juice, of course, make sure that it is always organic, because celery is very heavily treated with pesticides when it's not organic. And if you can, tolerate tomatoes, get it with tomato. And if you let it sit, oxidize a little bit in your refrigerator for a couple of hours, it brings out the taste of salt even more. Oh man, I am in heaven. You do that, and it's like, it's a salt addict's heaven. So that way you can avoid consuming that inorganic dead salt and still get some relief for your cravings.
I try instead of salt to eat onion and garlic and lemon in order to get this salty, spicy taste in a natural way. Because you think that you would crave for chocolate. I mean, it's way behind me, chocolate and sweet. You're craving for salt and spices, and it's amazing. That is, I feel that the body doesn't need it. I mean, I can live on fruit raw, but I need the taste. I miss the taste. I'm looking forward. I mean, I eat salad with tahina, and yeah, just like you said, I feel in heaven. I mean,
Yeah. But this is the emotional aspect of it. You understand? You eat it
yeah,
to soothe
now I
yourself.
understand it. Now I understand it because I see that I have energy. Just some fruit and fruit juices, that's enough. The body doesn't, I have the energy, but it's the taste I need. So I can tell the difference now. Because you know, you grow up on all these notions that you need to eat 3 meals a day, and you need proteins, and you need all that, and it's sort of, then it becomes legitimate to eat tasty food, cooked food, fried food, and it's very tasty. But when we learn that it's not tasty, we understand that it's the taste we're craving. It's not legitimate anymore, because when it is legitimate, you're supposed to eat eggs. Doesn't matter whether fried, that's also and fish and everything. And when you realize that it's not good, you understand that it's just about the taste. And
Yes.
you can also, you start living on raw food, and you see that the body doesn't need it, but it's the taste that you miss.
Yeah,
You
we're
lost
seeking
it.
pleasure. We're seeking pleasure through food. We're seeking to mood alter through food. You know, you feel, and it's not necessarily you just stressed. You could be excited, and all of a sudden it feels like, oh, I need a reward now. This would be great because I'm really feeling happy now. So it's not just when you are in the doldrums and you're down. It's the whole emotional spectrum, and we always find an excuse to eat something. So we have to learn, we have to retrain ourselves to stop eating to regulate our emotions. We should only eat for fuel. We should eat for taste. I mean, I have so many friends that think that, you know, saying I'm a foodie and I'm this a level of sophistication that puts them above other people. This is how we've perverted eating and nourishing our body. It's no longer about nourishing the body. It's about creating new exciting combinations of tastes and flavors.
Yeah, and I heard this expression, food pornography, something like that. Just like it's a pornography. It's like, it's not natural. It's not about nutrition. It's about pleasure. It's about how to stimulate ourselves more and to enjoy ourselves more. It's not about, yeah, it's not about the body's
Exactly.
needs. It's about psychological needs. It's about pleasure. So
Yeah, either to suppress or to stimulate, because sometimes we want to suppress the things we're feeling. We don't want to feel them, so we will eat, or to stimulate some kind of excitement. I mean, I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in US, there are a ton of channels on television dedicated to nothing but food. And I don't even understand what is the point of watching the food you can't eat. What do you get out of it? I don't get it. You understand? But people are obsessed with this, and these channels exist because there's a demand for it. People make money, you know, Top Chef this, and you know, going across country and eating at all the barbecue joints and who has the best, and it's all this salacious food that's put in front of your face that makes you want to go and eat. I mean, the whole point of cooking is what perverted us in our relationship with food, because that allowed us to create all kinds of flavors by combining ingredients, by adding spices, by cooking them this way, preparing them that way. So it was when we moved away from the natural state of eating uncooked raw foods the way God intended, is when we started to create an emotional dependency to food.
comfort food. That's what they call it, comfort food. And yes, it's true, because the natural tastes are, well, it's, you just eat and you're full and you don't need anything. But it's about the tastes, about the flavors. It's about, yeah, ever since men started processing food, and it's not the natural taste anymore. Something beyond that. It's like, it's an addiction. It's an addiction because it's very pleasurable. So
And what drives it is also corporate profit. You have entities such as food companies that spend money to figure out ways to make things taste better so that you can buy them and they can make money. I mean, they're constantly introducing new things for you to eat. Oh, we came up with this recipe. Oh, you thought this was good. Wait till you try this. You understand? There's a whole industry.
So it's about money. It's
Dedicated
about money.
to it. Yeah, but we can't blame it on them because they're supplying. But if there was no demand, they wouldn't be making it. The point is that people want this. People have so normalized to go to food to adjust their emotional state, that this is just normal.
It's a legitimate addiction. Food is a legitimate addiction. I think of it as like smoking. I mean, they're all. It's a culture. It's a whole thing on its by itself, and I don't know. It's poison. So in many ways, food is poisonous. It's like, but it is legitimate because we eat because we need to eat. But it depends what. That's the difference. We have to make the distinction between food that is natural, that we do need, that the body does need, and all this thing about pleasure, and it's got nothing to do with food. But there's no distinction. There's no distinction. So everything is legitimate and.
Yeah, Ivanna.
Yes.
Yeah, Vitaly, it's fine. Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Ivanna, about the use of affirmations and maybe even self-hypnosis, different techniques as an aid to fasting and detox. If you could elaborate on the proper use of affirmations mostly.
Yes. So I've already talked about this on previous occasions. I use the technology developed by the company called Inner Talk. Now, the thing about affirmations, this is tricky. You see, you have your conscious mind and you have your programming, right? We're all running a program that's on an autopilot. We make decisions automatic. This is an automatic thing. We don't stop every single moment and make an evaluation of what are we going to do. Autopilot all the way. So when you start to make use of affirmations where you repeat something to yourself, if that affirmation is at odds with an established program, your physical mind's going to discard it. So the beauty of this subliminal technology developed by Inner Talk is that they found the back door where we get the affirmation and the new conditioning without letting the mind make a decision. Do we like this? Do we not like this? You understand? So we bypass that process. And how it's done is that you have the sound that you do hear physically. It's either music or it's nature sounds like ocean waves. So this is what the physical mind hears. And it has no quarrel with that, right? The affirmations are recorded underneath that sound. And the affirmations are recorded in 3 different voices: male, female, and child.
Can you still hear the affirmations while listening to this recording?
It's almost like you can hear somebody talking in another room, but you can't understand what they're saying. Do you understand? It's almost like snippets of some sort of speech that is inaudible, that it's almost like if you were in another apartment and your neighbors were having a conversation and loud, and you could hear this, that somebody's talking, but you can't tell what they're saying. So this way, and the reason it's done in 3 voices, male, female, and child, is because we all respond differently to specific authority figures. Some people respond better to a male as an authority figure versus a female. And some people who have issues with wounded inner child would do better if the affirmation came, if it was spoken by a child. So this way, you know, your mind is being reconditioned without it even knowing that it's being reconditioned. So its defenses are down. But if you are just reading,
the mind does recognize the content of the speech. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
The mind does recognize the content of the speech, because you said that it is almost inaudible.
Does not recognize the content. You don't know what's being said. You hear something being said, but you don't know what it is. But the subconscious mind gets the message. That's the point. What we want to do is we want to get the ego, the conscious mind, out of the way, because that's the gatekeeper that doesn't allow your new affirmations that you may be reading or repeating to yourself to come in and take hold. It wants to, it will automatically try to get rid of anything that is in conflict with the established protocol, with the established program. Mm-hmm. And of course, conscious mind, as Dolores Cannon like to say, which I agree with, is the stupidest part of a human being. It's that ego part of us. So by not letting it, your conscious mind, hear the affirmations that the subconscious mind still receives, it's like you are putting that in with a sleight of hand, and gradually you replace the old program with the new program.
So the idea is that subconscious mind does not need to hear the content. It gets it by some other wavelengths other than
it hears it. You understand? It hears it. That's why, you know, during hypnosis, we perceive things that the physical mind doesn't register. Just because the physical mind doesn't register it, your body still perceives it. Mm. You understand? Like something could be said in your presence while you were asleep, the brain records it. Yes. Even though you were not conscious to hear it. And if you were to be hypnotized, you would be able to recall that conversation. Mm-hmm. So the idea is all of that is being recorded, being perceived and recorded by the brain. It's just that the physical mind cannot make sense of it. Okay. And these particular programs can be used while you're asleep. The beauty of these programs is that you really don't have to do anything other than plus pray. That's it. There's no effort or concentration required for this to work. All you have to do is be exposed to it for a minimum of an hour a day. And this company has programs for anything, for quitting smoking, for weight loss, for psychic development, for business success, for relationship, for dealing with trauma. Mm-hmm. This goes back to the question that I read about somebody who had gone through trauma as a child and still has issues. They have a great program that's called Dealing with Post-War Syndrome. So this is for PTSD. This is post-traumatic stress disorder. And it was designed for soldiers. But if you read the affirmations, because they give you the text that tells you what the affirmations are that are being sneaked into your mind. It doesn't matter what kind of stress or trauma you endured. It will work no matter what. Mm-hmm. It can even help you make money by addressing your subconscious negative beliefs about money. Mm. You understand? And this is how it works. So yes, affirmations can be great if they're delivered the right way.
Mm. So maybe below this video, we'll put a link. Again, maybe we already did it in the past. We'll put a link again to the site of this company. Sure. So that people who are interested.
Sure. And they have stuff like freedom from sugar, beating addictions, anything like this. And what I love about this company, and I'm not promoting them, I don't get paid by them. Mm-hmm. I use their products. And I can only tell you from my experience. What I like about this company is that the man who owns it is very conscientious. This is a person who cares about the state of the world. They were giving away 2 different programs for free. All you had to do was place an order. You didn't have to pay for it. One was forgiving and letting go. So because the man who owns the company, he believes that the world needs more of this. And then when the pandemic struck, then they gave away another program, was called optimism, positive thinking, because people were so submerged in negativity and fear. So they just give it to anybody who wanted it as an instant download. Here, you can have it for free. We believe that this is something the world needs. And I respect someone like that. That is a business I respect.
Absolutely. Do they have fasting affirmations, by the way? Specifically fasting affirmations?
I did not see any fasting affirmations. They have things for like being a vegetarian or eating healthy, stuff like that, but not specifically for fasting. No.
Okay, thank you very much. And
You're most welcome.
And if you had to work just with regular affirmations without any particular program, how would you go about that?
So the idea is that you have to believe the affirmation that you're trying to implement. As a coach, I work with people on teaching them how to manifest and create reality that they could live joyfully, that they could have everything. I teach them the quantum principles of how we create everything that we perceive as the outside world, right? And what we do perceive and what becomes our reality is based on our beliefs. Now, you probably heard of the law of attraction. People talk about you have to think positively. And no, it's not positive thoughts. It's not the thought that is instrumental. It's whether or not you believe that thought to be true. I can think positive thoughts all day long and lie to myself when I don't actually buy into the idea. In which case it does you absolutely no good whatsoever to have positive thoughts. It actually takes you farther off track because you're not being honest with yourself and you're not allowing to make appropriate corrections. When people say, oh, no, I'm just going to try to be positive. I'm going to try positive thinking, while at the same time, they're still embodying the negative attitude. You understand? So the thought has to be matched by the feeling. And the feeling is based on what you believe. For you to have a feeling about anything, you have to have assigned a definition to that thing. And that definition is either positive and constructive or negative. So the best way to help yourself is look at your definitions, not so much about affirmations, but definitions. If you're having negative feelings, you have to ask yourself, what would I have to believe about myself or the situation I'm in to feel this way? This means that you have created a definition that is negative. And sometimes we assign negative definitions to positive things.
Ivanna, could you please give an example of what you have just said, just to clarify? If we take the subject of food addiction, addiction to a particular product, a particular food item, as our field of work, and we would like to use affirmations to help ourselves to get rid of this particular craving or addiction. How would we go about that using those principles?
Well, okay, so let's say you have this very strong craving for something. Stop yourself and say, what do I believe will happen if I do not indulge this craving? What kind of disaster or negative thing is going to happen if I choose not to indulge this craving? And be honest with yourself, because most of the time nothing negative is going to happen. But you see, as human beings, we are motivated by a single motivating factor. We always want to move away from that which we perceive as unpleasant and move toward that which we perceive as pleasing and rewarding. So indulging a craving is pleasing and rewarding. Not indulging it in our definitions tells us that it's somehow negative to not indulge it because it's going to do X, Y, and Z. If I don't indulge this craving, something bad is going to happen. So you have to ask it, what have I made myself believe that's going to happen that's bad if I don't indulge this craving?
Mm.
Do you understand? So
Yes.
this is about being rational and logical. Ask yourself, what would I have to believe to have this feeling? What do I think is going to happen? How is going to help me to have this food other than momentary pleasure? But a better way to go about it, what do I think, what kind of disaster, what's going to happen that's so bad and negative if I don't indulge this that I must have it?
Okay, and after I spot those beliefs, what would be the next step?
Well, the idea is that when you get to the actual core belief and you answer the question honestly, you will see that your reasoning is nonsensical, that it makes no sense. And we don't do things that are nonsensical. You understand?
Yes.
So we sort of deconstruct our own process, and we get to the point of, and we go, well, that's dumb. And then you stop. You no longer feel attachment to that idea.
Okay.
Or you have to replace the desire for that food with a stronger desire, with a desire that if you don't indulge, I get a bigger reward. You understand? So I get my hair back, or I don't know, I grow my teeth, whatever that may be. So you have to find something that's more rewarding than having that food in that moment.
Yeah, and then build the affirmation around that, I guess, because that would go in line with your beliefs, with your core beliefs, basically.
Yeah, well, so affirmation is basically a positive belief about something. You understand? So it's not about repeating the affirmation. It's not the affirmation itself. It's understanding what the belief is.
Okay.
You see?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, I talk to myself all the time. I treat myself like I am my own client. When I get hit with something and I get all frazzled, I literally split myself in two. And I treat my problem the way I would if the person in front of me was my client and they were talking to me about it. And I always de-escalate the problem because I come from a very rational point of view. And then you get to the bottom of it, and you understand how irrational that the whole situation was. And as a human being, you always will do the more rational thing that makes sense.
Right. Right.
Ivanna?
Yes.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
You recommended regarding emotional treatments, which are also important. I mean, this is a fasting group, but so you said emotional release, and you don't know anybody in person that does it. So
correct, but there are other techniques. There's something called emotional freedom technique or tapping, where you de-escalate the feeling. When, you know, for example, you have a craving that you can't manage. What you do is by tapping and connecting to certain meridians, you de-escalate the volume of that feeling. You understand? So if it was at 10, you bring it down to 2 or 1, and now you can manage it. You understand? So there are other techniques that involve physical touch that you can do yourself.
Okay, physical. And can you recommend, do you offer certain treatments, emotional treatments?
I don't, well, emotional treatment is not probably the right concept or the way expressing it, but I work with people's energy system, with energy release. I also teach people how to create the life they want, but understanding their underlying motivations and how their subconscious beliefs they're not even aware of are actually creating the circumstances in their life. Because so many things that we do automatically, we never question. We just think this is how the world works, and that's not the case. The world works how you tell it to work. When people, you know, I have clients, well, but you know how the world is. And I said, oh, no, 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 that is how you are. That is not how the world is how you are. You decide how the world is. You live in the quantum field. The world reality does not exist outside of here. Your whole universe that you perceive exists between your two ears. That's it. There's literally nobody else in your world except for you. You don't share with other people. You share with other aspects of yourself that you created. So you own it. You own it. Wholesale, top to bottom. You cannot blame anybody else. But the problem is that we don't understand how, the process of how we are creating these things. And I teach people how to do that. I teach people how to get in touch with those underlying beliefs that are making them act in ways that produce results that they don't like. I teach people how to moderate their energy. I teach them specific energy techniques and exercises to help them with that.
So that changes the attitude.
Well, first of all, it changes your perspective of yourself. It puts you in the driver's seat. You become the controller. Okay? And then you always are the controller. People, look at the law of attraction and all these things that they think that they need to learn how to manifest things. Baloney, you already manifested everything you perceive, the whole world, you manifested it. You don't need to learn it. If you understand, if you didn't manifest it, you would have no experience of physical reality, period. So the question is then not whether or not you're manifesting, because you're doing it constantly. The question is, what are you manifesting? And why aren't you manifesting things that are making you happy? Why are you manifesting things that are negative? Mm-hmm. And most of it has to do with your view of yourself and other belief systems about the world. Some of them we take on without ever questioning from our family, from our culture, and we just assume this is how it is. When people, are going into these conspiracy theories about COVID and vaccines and all of this, and they send me video, I get flooded. Listen to this, she knows the truth, and I said, no, I decide what the truth is. That may be the truth for somebody in their reality, but it doesn't apply to me. I stopped letting people tell me what the truth is. I decide that. I create the kind of world I want to live in. I'm not stopping anybody else from doing what they want. If this is your preference, it's your prerogative. You have the free will to do that. I'm not here to beat anybody over the head or convert them to my way of thinking. You can do whatever you want. I may not prefer that way, and I may choose not to be a part of your life because of it, because it doesn't agree with me. But it doesn't mean that I have negative judgment or just say it's not my preference. There's difference between judgment, value judgment, and not preferring something. Because when you judge someone, you attach a negative meaning toward them, you devalue it. You don't have to devalue something. You have to recognize that it has the right to exist, just as anything else. You just don't necessarily need to make it a part of your experience. Does that help? I think we may have lost her.
Yeah, it helps a lot. Okay, guys, so we are going to finish soon. Does anyone have any more questions for Ivanna? If not, we are just going to wrap it up. Okay. Frederick has joined us. Hi, Frederick. Can you hear? Okay. Okay, guys, so I think that we are going to wrap it up for today. Ivanna, do you want to add anything? Do you want to expand on anything that you have been saying?
I do want to add something because it makes me crazy.
Okay.
Okay, because people are assigning things to me, saying that I said these things when I in fact did not say them, and these are things that are incorrect. And we keep circling around this protocol with grapes, lemons, and ginger that has been so bastardized and so twisted around. And they're saying, I said this and I never said this. Okay, so I want to set the record straight. What is the correct way to apply this protocol? Okay, because I don't want there to be any more misunderstandings, and I want people to do the wrong thing because it will undermine their success. So you have to apply the technique correctly. So you can either eat grapes whole, you can juice them, or you can blend them. But all three components are necessary: grapes, ginger, and lemons. Now, you can mix lemons and limes. You can do, 7 lemons and 3 limes. Limes are really good for breaking up uric acid and kidney stones, more so than lemons. So I like to mix in some limes. So you would have a total of 10, be it either all 10 lemons or 7 lemons and 3 limes, or you can mix them up in whatever proportion you want. But 10 either lemons and or limes, and a large chunk of ginger larger than your hand. You juice that. Now, that lemon and ginger combo is going to yield a certain amount of juice. Depending on whether or not you want to eat your grapes whole or juiced and or blended is going to determine what you can do with the lemon ginger juice. If you are eating your grapes and not juicing them or blending them, then you are going to dilute the lemon and ginger juice, and you're going to split it into 3 parts. So you're going to drink that in 3 servings, 3 times a day. All right. Now, if you are juicing or blending your grapes, you do not need to dilute the lemon ginger juice. You're still going to split it into 3 parts, and then you're going to then you will add 1/3 of it to your either grape juice or the blended grapes. And you're going to have that 3 times per day. Okay? Now, the baking soda situation. This is where the confusion came in. So this is a very aggressive and astringent combination of grapes, lemons, and ginger. It can lead to burning urination and urinary tract infection when you start to open up the kidneys. So if that happens, I want to tell people to stop drinking the lemon and ginger. Stay with the grapes, but stop lemon and ginger because that will increase the pain. Okay? Now, if the pain is still too much for you to handle, even without the ginger and lemon, you can drink a solution of baking soda and water because that will neutralize the acid in the kidneys. You do not mix baking soda with anything. You do not mix it with grapes. You do not mix it with lemon. Because somebody was saying, you got to mix baking soda with the lemon and ginger. No, you never want to do that. What is the point of neutralizing the lemon with baking soda? We want it to be acidic. So we do not mix the acid lemon ginger combination with baking soda. We only introduce baking soda separately on its own if you have a urinary tract infection or a kidney infection or a lot of pain. You understand? Because that's going to help neutralize the acid itself. So I hope we can put this to rest now. I never said put baking soda into your ginger lemon juice. Please don't do that. That defeats the purpose. Okay? Also, do not drink too much of baking soda. This is literally just to help you get through the pain. If pain is tolerable, I'd rather you tolerate the pain. Because once again, we don't want to bring that sodium too high. It creates an adrenal problem for us, you see? It gets the sodium-potassium balance out of place. It starts to accumulate in our tissues. You don't want that. And it also can short circuit your pancreas, which is producing its own bicarbonate to neutralize stomach acid and other acids in your body. So baking soda should be used sparingly and only in very bad situations when the pain is really bad, okay? And is not to be mixed with the juices. All right, so I hope that clears it up.
Very, very good, Ivanna. Yeah, was very, very useful clarification. Okay, guys, so I think we're going to finish for today. So below this video, you will find the contact details of Ivanna. You will find the link to this affirmation site that she mentioned. And you will also find my WhatsApp number if any of the viewers want to join the weekly fasting group. The aim of this weekly fasting group is to cultivate the habit of fasting once a week between 24 and 36 hours. We do it as a very big international group of like-minded people, and it's lots of fun. And thank you very much, Ivanna. It was very, very, very helpful, all the information that you have given. And we hope to see you soon in the next webinar.
Okay, guys, take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.
Bye-bye.